Hey everybody, this is Dave from Verified News, the freedomwatch.us channel. Today I'm going to give you a rundown on just exactly what the birth certificate is and how it's used and how your account is prepaid. Now, as many of you know, I started my Federal Reserve Explained series a long time ago with quite extensive knowledge about how the Federal Reserve System actually works. Now, like I said, every time I mention it, there were a couple of technical errors in that series. I didn't know what I know now when I did that series, but I knew enough to declare as fact, confirmed and verified and unrebuttable, quite a number of factors. Now, to understand your birth certificate, a lot of those we have to go back to those factors. Factor 1, Federal Reserve notes are liabilities of the U.S. government. Okay? The Federal Reserve notes can only be borrowed into existence. You read Federal Reserve Modern Money Mechanics, a Federal Reserve publication. It says it right out, straight up English. Banks may not loan customer deposits. So they don't have any money that they can loan you because they can't loan out their deposits. It's against the law. So the Federal Reserve notes can only be borrowed into existence. Okay? Factor 4 is that the national debt equals the monetary base. I showed you that off of the Federal Reserve balance sheet. Each Federal Reserve note adds to the U.S. national debt. Factor 5. Federal Reserve notes are created to monetize your loans. Okay, to monetize your loans. But Federal Reserve notes are liabilities of the U.S. government. That means the government has to pay them back. Whether you pay them back to the bank or not, the government still has to pay them back. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Has to do with your prepaid status. It's not prepaid actually. It's something different. Okay, so the Federal Reserve notes are created to monetize your loans, and supposedly the liability to pay them back is on you, but they're created to monetize your loans. Well, Federal Reserve notes are liabilities of the U.S. government, so the government would have to go into debt to create these. So how you see what I'm saying? It's your loan, but who's actually creating the funds? The U.S. government is actually creating and monetizing the funds and going into debt. Because as soon as those funds are created, they go into the monetary base and they're converted into public debt. And you have to pay that back through taxes in addition to paying the supposed loan back to the bank. Now, what we've seen with that mortgage, the trust deed document, you already own the home before you sign that trust deed. How can that be? Well, I'm about to show you. I'm going to try to show you the basics of it. The Federal Reserve claims to be the holder of the obligations and liabilities for the notes. If you ask the Federal Reserve who's liable for paying back all this money, they'll make it sound like them by saying, well, we hold the liabilities and the obligations. As we know from recent videos and our look into the Uniform Commercial Code, the holder, Factor 6, pursuant to the Uniform Commercial Code, is one with the right to payment. So, yes, they are holding all the liabilities, and they are the ones with the right to payment on those liabilities. Part 7. The actual source of the FRNs via the Federal Reserve is the USA, your government. A mathematical certainty because the monetary base equals the national debt. When you borrow money, they create Federal Reserve notes. That's added to the monetary base, and there's a corresponding national debt added to it, in addition to the debt you supposedly owe the bank. Factor 8. Each Federal Reserve note is a liability that must be paid back via taxation. And you thought it was yours, huh? LOL. You know, it is kind of funny when you think about it. Okay, now let's move to the next slide and we'll clear all this up a little bit. Alright, so your parents get married, or go into common law, whatever, go to the hospital, you pop out, and they get you to sign a birth certificate. Okay, and so the USA goes, hey, USA goes to the bank, the Federal Reserve, hey, look, evidence of a labor unit. How much will you loan us on its future production? We have a 99.9% capture rate of labor units, social security numbers, licensing, registration of property, and consent to income tax. And see, they bundle up your birth certificates, all the births of a day or a week or whatever, and yours is individually in there too, and however many billions they borrow on that particular security, a million or two of it is from your future estimated labor unit value. And, I'll get into how this taxation works in a minute. But so, the banksters say, well, the current going collateral value of U.S. labor units, according to the average income taxes, and how many people get licenses, cars, this, that, and the other thing, is about $1 million. Just sign the bond here and we'll front that to you. Maybe later, maybe more later if you can convert more of its productivity into your revenue stream. Okay? So your birth certificate is evidence of delivery of a potential revenue stream. It's evidence of the ability to pay back the debt because the United States has a high capture rate on those revenues that you're going to create through your labor. And the money's already there. It's added to the monetary base, and you're on the hook to pay it back through taxes. You already have the loan agreement for everything you want to borrow. It's already there. It's already been created. God knows what it's worth. I mean, it's put into a trust, and this is all fraudulent. This is done to a man. So, and it would be okay if they said at the beginning of my life, well, you have like $1 million in credit. And you can access it any time because it's already here and you're already on the hook to pay it back. So, what's supposed to happen, you're supposed to accept the charges against the prepaid, pre-borrowed money that you're already predestined to pay back anyway. But they keep all the assets from you so that you can't enjoy them. The way it would work is you accept for value on a house, say $30,000. Well, now you got a big tax burden, don't you? Because that's income. And you used your account to accept it, so you can't say that it's not taxable. So that becomes taxable income, right? But you can accept the taxable income up to a point too. But I'm not sure. The way I think it's supposed to work is you accept the value of a house, you then become assessed for an income tax on that house because we don't have any money. And if it wasn't for that, the banks, if it wasn't for that, we'd all be working the debt off directly in labor camps or whatever. You'd get exterminated if you're not paying it back and whatever. The point being is that things could get pretty dark and ugly if we didn't have some sort of credit system in place. Now, the problem with this whole credit system is that you're not told that you already have an account that's got pre-borrowed money for that you have to pay back. Which means since you have to pay it back, since you're the primary liability holder on that money, you own it. You have the title to the money as long as you meet the contracts of the taxation. So your birth certificate is just evidence that the United States is going to be able to pay back the loan it takes out on your birth certificate. That's all it is. Your birth certificate is evidence, and the United States has a very high conversion rate on the labor unit that are delivered into its jurisdiction to turn them into revenue streamers. People who buy cars and insure and register. You buy insurance that produces profits for the insurance company and taxable income for all of the employees of the insurance company. Every time you go to a store, you pay sales tax. The store owner takes that, pays taxes on his profits. He, he pays his vendors. They all pay taxes on their profits. Everybody, this all supports people who work and make money and pay income tax. And very shortly, just about every dollar that is ever made is paid back to the government through taxes. And your house, you think about it. That house has been collecting property taxes. If it, say it was built in 1933, it's been collecting property taxes for what, almost 70, almost 80 years. Every year, property taxes. Every time it's inherited or transferred to an heir, it gets a estate tax. Every time you sell it, there's sales taxes. There's this, that, and the other thing. In other words, that money, those houses all get paid for through taxes. And in maybe a very long-term loan, but they do get the money through taxes. And my point is that you're not supposed to be buying these properties. You're supposed to be accepting your loan and agreeing to pay it back to the government. And this is what I think the way it is that your income is, if you want to take advantage of the system, your income is going to be taxable. Your acceptances are going to be taxable income. Because the money that you're getting is borrowed money, okay? And it has to be paid back by the USA. But see, they're not telling you why that this is the way it is, and they're not being honest with you. So when you do an acceptance, you almost, because of the fraud, I believe that if they deny your acceptance, or even if they deny your acceptance for taxes, even, you see what I mean? But anyway, this is the only thing that makes sense in the birth certificate, that it's evidence of the future ability of the government to capture your income through Social Security number, W-4 forms, licensing, registration, insurance, property taxes, this, that, and the other thing. And of course, the evidence of a birth certificate is evidence of that. The United States is really good at converting. Got a fucking militarized police force making sure everybody pays up, And so anyway, that's what the birth certificate is. But I believe that even though people perceive it as a liability, it's actually an asset. And a lot of the things that the sovereign community and the freeman community are perceiving as liabilities are actually assets, some of these documents. So, which ones are assets and liabilities is important, but I believe the birth certificate itself is an asset. So, anyway, this is my rambling on the birth certificate, what I think it is, how it's being used, and why your account is prepaid. It's not really prepaid, it's pre-loaned. In other words, the money's already been loaned to you. The banks just step between it and pretend they're loaning you money that hasn't already been loaned, and make you pay back to them in a double billing scheme. So in review, let's go to the next slide. So anyway, that's what the birth certificate is. I believe it gives the government jurisdiction over you until you turn 18, as it's given to you in trust by your parents. So they were assigned that position, and they act as your agent, binding you to repayment of the loan you took out at birth, and repayment is through taxes. Loan proceeds are created at birth. They go to the Federal Reserve and say, here's some evidence of a labor unit, we think we can convert it. The Federal Reserve says, okay, we'll loan you money on that. So you're given a loan at birth. Your trustee took it out on your behalf. You already borrowed millions and have to